selling to one wholesale buyer. So it was no longer a question of tendering, it was managing the wholesale buy. That's why we're asking
you. You were not given full powers to manage this process. Were you working hand in hand with the Bank of Uganda, or you're just a cover-up for Bank of Uganda? Because if your term of reference is to make sure that you get a tenders or bid documents within 13 weeks. How did they change the strategy?
These are substantial changes. That's why we're asking for where are these various. First of all, the date of start has changed. Now the issue of the bids has also changed. These are very substantial variations. That's why we're
Can we get that letter of change of the bidding process?
Madam Chairman, I refer you to a letter dated 12th March with reference number EDS B.65. It is addressed to us and it is signed by Executive Director Justin Bajenda.
Can we have a copy? We don't have it.
Yes.
And did those changes have financial implications?
It states that we refer to our various meetings and the request by Octavian Advisors LP regarding the above subject matter. The subject matter was Octavian LP and request for exclusivity. The matter of exclusively dealing with Octavian.
Have that letter, a copy?
I asked about financial implications. Did those alterations have financial implications on the contract you had with the Bank of Uganda?
Kirkland, how did Octavia come in before you finished the bidding process?
How did it work?
Octavia come in.
Madam Chair, when we started in January, we were going to take a number of weeks to prepare a database and then put out tenders and bids. Our strategy, the goal of our assignment was to find a buyer to take the residual assets. That was the goal of our assignment. And we said, in addition to the local media, we also wanted to bring in the international companies that buy distressed assets, that specialize in buying distressed assets.
Ask about financial implication, please. These alterations, did they have any financial implication?
Is that for me or for Bank of Uganda, sir?
No, please. If you have to have financial implication, it would be you to go to your client that, please, because of this on this, we are having these financial implications. That's why I'm asking you.
We did not make any additional financial claims as a result of the alterations.
So why were you sending us to the Bank of Uganda? Why were you saying that you asked the Bank of Uganda?
I asked the question for me of the Bank of Uganda.
There is a chair here.
So,
Honorable.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you asked an earlier question which was not answered, whether this document, because when he was submitting and referring us to documents, he said they were delivered to the EDS. So we needed to know whether they have already reached, they were received, which question was not answered by Madam Bajenda. Is it true that these documents were delivered to the bank?
That's why I said, Madam Bajenda, you'll have to respond to us on the documents that Kirkland, Mr. Kakembo, is saying that he delivered to you, including the due diligence report, or because there's a received letter from, copy from Bank of Uganda.
Thank you, Chair. If I heard him correctly, he said that there is a stamp from EDS's office, right? Okay. I wanted to refresh my memory. If that is the case, and we also received everything that he's talking about.
And if you received, can we have them as a committee so that we have this issue concluded?
Thank you, Chair. They can be found in the Bank of Uganda. The EDS can get the staff to look for them in the Bank of Uganda.
EDS, can we have the documents that Mr. Kakembo is talking about?
Madam Chair, I will not waste the time of this committee. Those documents do not exist in the Supervision Department. We have been searching for them from the time that the audit commenced till today.
Madam Chair, have you had the committee, have you had the EDS is being truthful that will not waste the time of this committee and claim that they have the documents? That now takes you back to the discussion of yesterday. Either the documents got their legs out of the bank or something else. Yes, Honorable Anywa.
We need to move a bit systematic, because Madam Bajenda...
We are actually moving in a very systematic way.
Because I don't want us to leave a gap somewhere. Madam Bajenda has confirmed that the documents were delivered as per the stamp from her office. I just wanted to have clarification. Were those the document part of her handover report, so that we know it moved and it was handed over or not?
Madam Bajenda, what the member is asking, that is it part of your handover? Which envelope is it? Because now we know it is in envelopes.
Thank you, Chair. If you look at my handover report, I handed over all documents that were in EDS's office. Current documents. All documents, in my view, should have been accounted.
Madam Bajenda, don't generalize these things. We are looking at the documents that were signed between Kirkland, Octavia, Nile River, and Seal. That is what we are looking for. And you cannot say, I handed over everything. Of what relevance is it to this committee? If it is not there, just say they are not there. And we'll make a decision based on that.
And for clarity, Madam Chair, if she referred back to her handover report, is this document part of what is entailed in there? Or is it specified there?
Madam Chair, the documents being referred to in the contract were not a part of the handover report I received. However, with regards to the inventory, there is an inventory document that we submitted to this committee, I believe, towards the end of November, which document had the list of account titles, names, principal amounts owed, accrued interest, but did not have details of the securities to those loans.
And the violation reports.
And yes. So we have there's a big document, some of the documents we submitted, which were also reviewed by the Auditor General.
So where did you get that one you submitted?
Madam Chair, those were part of the documents accompanying the agreement of the sale between Bank of Uganda and Nile River. That is what Bank of Uganda sold to Nile River. But in terms of documents related to this particular contract, like I said earlier on, I will not waste the time of the committee, and those documents are not in supervision.
Leave it and they disappeared, or you have never seen them as a new EDS?
He has said he didn't receive.
Madam Chair, there is Honorable Yanda asked a question. And that question,
Honorable Yanda, are you still around?
Okay. It is Mr. Kakembo, you are going to have to assist us here. One, under the Financial Institutions Act, particularly Section 99(4), all the liquidation issues are borne by the financial institution under liquidation. So a shift in the time of executing this contract has an implication.
Financial implication.
In financial.
When you're driving to a petrol station to fuel, make sure your car is rightfully parked, not so far away from the nozzle, and actually ensure that you're parked before you fuel. Then switch off your engine, then take the fuel. Before you drive off, make sure that the nozzle is out of your tank, not to stretch the hose, because that could cause a spill and end up in loss of life. Your life is precious. Deco, every life matters.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda.
Okukubiriza programu eno tuwaye n'okugitegeka libeera bbanja lyennyini tosobola kuwumula okutuusa ng'olisasudde. Entebe eno eteekwa okugasa abantu buli wiiki.
Omurasita kyanoonya gwe kyolina
lwa butayagala kumanya.
Exactly. Nobeera era bannange gavumenti etuyambe.
Nyongera kubabuulira nabagamba emyaka ng'ebiri egiyise nti lwakiri waliwo be neetaaga okusabira mukama abanonne.
Ebeera interview omuntu gy'ateekeddwa okulaba. Yattaluumu wamulabako n'amaaso.
Moses.
Wali omumanyi?
Nali mumanyi baali bayita Moses Safi.
Nti lwaki nkola activism? Museveni agenda okujja naye nze nga njagala Museveni.
Nabagamba nti gavana waali.
Okunoonyereza n'okutegeera obulungi akyadde ku programu kikulu kijjayo emiramu emikulu tuwaye kwesimbi. Buli kimu tukyetegekera. Tutambula okunoonya abali mbuufu obw'emiramu egyatuwaye abalabi baffe baliko emboozi gye baagala okuwulira.
Okuva e Kaddugala paka Kampala bagira ku motoka y'amatooke emabega.
Eyigiriza, esoomooza,
naddukamu katono ne gukuba omukono.
Paul Kinno Ssebe ekugwe.
Zino HVZ nnene.
Ewuniikiriza.
Yalowooza nti bagenda musalako kugwe. Yadduka.
Eteeka ku bunkenke.
Abaali mu ssabo yeefuula alagula aliko emmandu empitirivu ennyo nga mugajjajja byontumye embireesi nti ebiriwo ajja ekikapu akimugundirawo mu maaso ogenda okebera nga mutwe gwa mwana omukazi n'agwa n'afeyitinga
naye n'akuddamu
nzimanyi nnyo ebbaluwa
kasonsomolera ng'erigoledde bweddo
otyo. Tuwaye ekyusizza ate ekyayongera okukyusa ebiseera bya Uganda kubanga ddoboozi lyogerwa ate liwulirwa.
Values. How did you do that before you got the realizable values? What Honorable Michael is asking you. How did Octavia now come in?
That is what I was starting to explain before I went back to Honorable Biandala's question.
Stop pointing at my members.
Apologies, madam. On 1st February 2007, we got a letter from Octavian Advisors.
Before the letter, Mr. Kake, take us through it. First of all, there was a delay of commencement.
Yes.
Just give us the date of commencement of execution of this agreement. You were delayed. There were alterations in the dates of commencement agreed on. Yes. So first give us, for purposes of consistency, the date you commenced executing this agreement.
Thank you, Chair. I had indicated that I'm going to calculate the date backward.
Have a record because it must flow. I seem to have a problem. You seem to be contacted by Octavian even before you commence your assignment. So let's first calculate. Then we can understand how Octavian picked interest before you had made evaluations, and let's give it, Madam Chair, a request to give him time to compute that.
Mr. Kakembo, we can give you some 5 minutes to do that recollection and calculation of when you started, when Octavia came in, how he came in, how you went into plan A instead of plan B, and
Madam Chair.
And as we will give him 5 minutes, We can have a working team, but I'd ask for the person who released the bank vehicle.
Madam Chair, thank you. I have with me the Acting Executive Director Administration who will provide an explanation on your earlier query.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am Dr. Janet Bamwenda, Acting Executive Director Administration. What I have been told is that the committee is interested in knowing why Mrs. Justine Bagenda uses the Bank of Uganda vehicle after retirement. Now, Mrs. Justine Bagenda retired at the end of July last year. And as soon as she retired, we withdrew the official Bank of Uganda vehicle that she was using in her capacity as an executive director in the bank. She started using her own private vehicle. However, when COSASE started and the governor was requested to invite Mrs. Justine Bagenda to appear before this committee, she requested...
You're contradicting with what your boss said in this committee. The governor said when Mrs. Bagenda retired, they left her with the vehicle that was using, including security. And the governor said because of she complained there was security threat on her. That's why they did that, and they agreed on 31st December, all those properties would be withdrawn. Honorable Francis.
Yeah, of course now the governor is not here, and we have asked the person to give us information. My view is that whether they contradict each other is not our business. My view is that we get information from them.
It is our business. It has to be corrected on record.
Because we can't force them not contradict each other.
Give us what he has, then we can compare.
Chairperson, what I know is that when she retired, Bank of Uganda officially authorized her to retain the bodyguard that she was having and all the security guards because of the security risks that Bank of Uganda evaluated up to the end of December. However, as far as transport is concerned, she was using her own vehicle. Now, how did she come to use the Bank of Uganda vehicle that she's using now? When COSASE started, and especially when she was outside the country and her bodyguard had been detained, when she came, she informed us that she was meeting challenges traveling in her private vehicle with an armed guard, especially entering the premises of Parliament. So at that time we had provided her a substitute bodyguard because her usual bodyguard was in detention. And this substitute bodyguard had to be picked from Bank of Uganda, go and pick her from her residence to this COSASE and back to her residence. And we didn't want this person to travel by public means when he is armed. So a decision was made by Bank of Uganda to allow her get to the Bank of Uganda vehicle for purposes of picking her from her residence to COSASE and back to her residence, and then the vehicle goes to headquarters and the parks.
How was the decision made? Did they communicate to you in writing?
Yeah, she communicated it to us. She sent us an email. Actually, she sent it to me.
She's not the one to make a decision. I'm saying who made the decision in Bank of Uganda?
The decision was made by me after carrying out consultations for purposes of this COSASE. I consulted the Director Security. I contacted the Director Admin Services with the charge of transport, and a decision was made just because we prioritized the activities of COSASE to be above anything else, because we did not want a situation where she would fail to turn up because of transport.
Yes, General.
Mr. Tubamwenda, I think the only thing you can say is that the central bank made an error, because if the governor decided that on the 31st of December, every privilege accorded to Mrs. Vajenda will cease, then there is no any other alteration that can be made without his communication again. Because if she is no longer a member of the bank, does that mean that even after 20 years, Bank of Uganda will still be responsible for whatever she's going to do in case there is any query related to her term of office? No.
Mr. John,
that way.
Can I first answer, then you come in, and then we make a ruling on that?
Yeah, I agree with you that probably our decision should have been different, but our main fear was for her to fail to appear before Kosase when the governor is the one who had directed her to appear.
It is not your responsibility. It's a constitutional provision under Article 164.
Okay. Then after December, the board of Bank of Uganda...
And I want to remind you, administration, the powers of this committee. This committee has powers under Article 90. We have powers of a high court. We can compel any witness to come to this committee. So it's not that anybody should be bribed or done what to be in this committee. And these are public funds you're wasting. After public funds are being wasted in closure of banks, you're continuing to waste these public funds. Whose bodyguard is it? Who is paying the bodyguards?
Another question, Chair.
General, you're going to ask, who is paying the bodyguards?
That is it.
The bodyguard is paid by Bank of Uganda, but starting first...
Are they attached to a particular office or a particular person?
It is only, okay, they are attached to Justin Bajend, as the governor explained the last time when he appeared.
Justin Bajend as who? In the bank?
As the former EDS who had the...
Madam Chairperson, I just want the gentleman to make one correction. He made an allegation that it was difficult for Madam Bajan to come to Parliament. I think that was an unfair statement. This place is free to all Ugandans. I don't know how they really picked out Bajan and made it very difficult for her to enter.
This is actually your place. Parliament of Uganda is your place. And even members of parliament cannot have access to inside here with the guns. So if you feel there is anybody special who can have access to the premises of Parliament of Uganda with the guns, that's wrong. That should have not been an excuse. General, you had something?
Yeah.
General still on the floor, then Honorable Anywa, then Honorable Casilo.
Chair, mine was answered when you asked about payment, because it's very unique and funny.
I just wanted to put the general's question the other way. Had Madam Bajenda refused to come to Kosase without that car and the bodyguard, did he say, if that is not provided to me, I will not go?
That one I corrected it. It's a constitutional requirement that she has to come.
Yeah, maybe she did not know. Yesterday she said she didn't know many things. Maybe she did not know, so in her not knowing her, she said, I will not go if you don't provide me that.
You know, having been a public officer and accountability, Article 164, she has to come and do the accountability. And then, of course, also in this committee, we have the powers to compel her to appear anytime we want. How she comes is not our problem. Honorable Anywa?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think the point has been made, but this being an accountability committee, I think the administrative officer must take note that public funds were misused
there was no reason that you could attach more funds to protect the former EDS to come to account this parliament. Madam Chair, would indeed be procedure right that we let them compile that excess funds spent outside the requirement and it be retrieved back.
Chair.
Honorable Elijah.
Somebody must account for that money.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I think this discrimination should be stopped. Because why would Mr. Mugwanya be driving his car to come and appear? And he has been religiously driving his car to come here. Unless you are or from his farm. And Mrs. Bajenda, from her residence, is given special treatment. I think this ad hoc way of doing things and discrimination should cease. Even if there are security threats, even for members of parliament here, they inform the speaker writes to IGP. IGP does the assessments and provides the security. It's not Parliament of Uganda. IGP will be written to and say, please provide, and will provide. And the members cost. But here we have even someone who has retired. And we are still giving special treatment.
Madam Chair,
Before I make a ruling, can we have also...
I'm just concluding.
Okay.
So, whatever you have done is wrong and must stop. I thought by the time we raised this matter last time, you had taken note heed of this. Honorable Anwar has just put that aspect. Can we know how much you have spent and you are continuing to spend?
Honorable Betty.
So please let this cease.
Thank you.
That's what I would propose.
Honorable Betty. Thank you, Madam Chair. It still stresses us and disappoints us to see that the Bank of Uganda staff are still doing the long things when we are trying to collect them. On this note, Madam Chair, I would like to request whether they are still facilitating these people in other forms so that we know and they start accounting for that money to be refunded to the citizens of Uganda. Thank you. I hope you don't pay yourselves allowances for coming here.
And Madam Chair, before you rule, there are some other former Bank of Uganda staff that have been coming here. We also need to know whether they're also being facilitated to come here, either with vehicles, bodyguards, or allowances, so then we know before they compile, so it's not just about one officer, so that we know how much has been spent in this investigation.
Madam Chair, before you rule on that, because I raised it, we have been seeing, even up to now, if I'm not mistaken, by yesterday, Madam Bajenda still had the bodyguard, and the bodyguard who was supposed to answer queries to this committee was saying, my boss. So, my principal, and she was not able. She was actually very rude to the committee.
She was actually being disciplined.
Yeah, Madam Chair, my query here is that up to this point in time, under what circumstances does this officer still become the bodyguard of Madam Bajenda, who is a former employee of Bank of Uganda?
Honorable Tusime.
Madam Chair, in a nutshell, I have been privileged to consult the Bank of Uganda Administration Manual. And 16.5 provides that the bank shall provide security for physical property, for staff, for lands and buildings, motor vehicles and other means of mobility, plant and machinery, furniture and equipment, stocks including currency and media stocks. In my thinking, Madam Majenda is none of these. It is the responsibility of the government of Uganda, however, through the Inspector General of Police, to provide security for every Ugandan. I want to advise the Bank of Uganda administration, and especially the one who made a decision that you work in conformity of the provisions that guide you.
Chair.
We need to move to the next thing, General.
I think what we should learn from the employment of that vehicle, since the escort cannot go using public means, Bank of Uganda decided to give the escort.
General, I use a public means, but I have a bodyguard.
This is what is happening because Mrs. Vajenda is no longer an employee of Bank of Uganda. It's only the soldier who is being paid. So
can we hear from you, and then we make a ruling on this? Principle of fair hearing.
Madam Chair, I have listened to the concerns of COSASE and I have noted them here. When I go back to Bank of Uganda, I'm going to brief my bosses accordingly.
Now,
the cost there
is a financial implication. There is a financial implication on whatever you've done, whatever decision you took. And that's what I was asking. I hope the members that come here on a daily basis are not facilitated. EDS, are these members paid for them out of station?
I'm not aware, but if I'm not aware of anyone being paid allowance.
Can we have that information, whether they are paid allowance or not?
Madam Chair, they are not paid allowances for appearing before this committee.
And if the decision that was taken by the governor that Madam Bajenda holds the vehicle up to December plus the security, and you breached that and continued giving her the vehicle plus the security, and it's at a cost, can we have the cost implication from the time that the vehicle was, from the time from 31st December?
Madam Chair, from 1st January, the board of Bank of Uganda decided to extend those benefits up to the end of June.
Madam Chair, we need this in a report form so that it comes on our record.
Chair.
And the cost.
Honorable Chair, procedure. Chair.
What was the reason of the board of... What was the reason of the board extending? Looking at your administration manual and what has been read, is she one of...
But 1st January was a public holiday. The board is certain. No, Madam Chair, let him not blame the board. You are the one who took the thing to the board.
Who made a decision to the board? A recommendation to the board?
I am not aware, Chairperson.
And what was the basis of making that decision?
I am also not aware, but I suspect it was a continuation of the reasons that she had provided for having it. But I don't know. I can only speculate.
Madam Chair, maybe we find out from Madam Bajenda what dangers, what security dangers she had, and if she's the one who made the request to give the basis of this misappropriation of funds.
But even wrong, after the chairman of the board giving a guarantee that's after 31st.
Can we ask the EDS to give us the furnishers with all the information on the financial implication, since we are the head of delegation, and the decision of the board, who made a recommendation to the board, and will make a decision on that?
Chairperson, this is wasteful expenditure. The manual is very clear here.
Can we have tea?
The IGP is responsible for anyone if someone feels threatened.
Can we have tea and we'll make a final decision on that?
But Madam Chair, this
on
one
a mandatory expenditure.
Yeah, but this one also we must help this country. It must stop because the extension is up to June. The situation is already bad, it is illegal, and they have made the extension. As a committee of accountability, we should put it to a stop, and then they bring us the report.
Members, cool down.
Madam Chair, yes, we are cooling down. But as we cool down, Madam Chair, I think the governor should explain this because he's the chairman of the board. He's the one who had put the date of 31st. So he should come and tell us why he thinks government money should be used the way he's using it.
Honorable Mwenjuke, this committee is above that level of a governor. The decision we make here is going to be final.
And the IGP to a message.
And the decision that we are going to make, if you agree with me, today should be the last day. What is the day today? Today should be the last day Mrs. Bajenda is using the property of Bank of Uganda, and we are revoking the decision of your board.
Just write to IGP to take care of you.
That is number one. Number two, the person who made a decision of extension from first to date, we need a financial implication, and we'll recover that money from that person.
Chairperson, in fact it should be from July, because even that one is illegal. It's against the regulation.
Well, the other one was because we are not started the interaction with Bank of Uganda. From the day the governor told us from 31st to date, any financial implication must be recovered from the person who made the decision. And we want a confirmation of recovery.
Yeah. May I know also from them whether Mr. Katimbwa is being paid for attending this meeting? Because there are high possibilities. Can you report to the microphone?
We've asked them to compile for us.
But this one, Mr. Katimbwa is here, EDS is here. They will compile for others who are not here. Can we hear from the EDS?
I am not aware whether he's being paid.
Give us the confirmation in writing.
Is he given transport?
Madam Chair, the only transport that Bank of Uganda is providing is they come to the Bank of Uganda premises and they are brought here in Bank of Uganda vehicles and taken back to Bank of Uganda. That's the only transport facilitation I'm aware of.
Madam Chair, when this committee asks witnesses to come and report, it's not the responsibility of Bank of Uganda to facilitate the witnesses.
Madam, that's why we have asked for a compilation.
Yes, Madam Chair, but he's confirming that the vehicle of Bank of Uganda picks them from Bank of Uganda and brings them here. How can they not walk to Parliament and go to Bank of Uganda to be driven here?
Or even drive up to here.
Members have tea. Please, let's have working tea. Now Mr. Kakembo is ready. Mr. Kakembo. Members, you can have tea. Mr. Kakembo, are you ready with your calculation?
Madam Chairman, there are probably are some records I need to refer to in my office to get a specific date. Because I want to go over the information on the delay and the extension. So I can return to the committee on that.
But I thought you'd have even, what you should have done would be to call somebody from your office. I don't believe you're alone in your office.
Madam Chairman,
as we promised, we must finish with Bank of Uganda today. Next week, we will start with the directors and shareholders of other banks. That should not be something to keep us here for days. If you know there was a breach on the time of starting, you say it was there and this was the reason.
You see, Mr. Kakembo, that is very useful for us to follow when Octavia came in. That's why we're asking for a starting date. Without that, we cannot proceed. So we need that information such that we start calculating and see when and how did Octavia come in, how did Sekabira Investments Limited coming, all of that. That is sealed.
I'm protecting my witness. It is sealed, not Sekabira. You see, what members want to know, the relationship between Octavia, Nile River, and SEAL. And it's only you who can help us, because you've already made a statement that Octavia was brought in. Yeah?
Madam Chairman, I am able to describe Octavia's relationship with Nile River and their relationship with SEAL. I am able to give you information on that. Octavian.
What matters is the dates of engagement.
Madam Chair, Mr. Katimba, if he wants to speak to me, let him speak on microphone.
Mr. Katimba, is there a problem?
Madam Chair, I don't wish to speak to the member, but our personalities are also important, and they should not be slighted, because this is the public. Now, if you say Sekabira and the company on record, that's not fair.
Order. I did not say Sekabira and company. Sekabira and company limited here.
Mr. Katimbo, I thought I corrected the record. I thought I corrected that record. That was a light moment between Mr. Sekabira and Honorable Elijah. So can we move on?
Can he give us the full abbreviation of SEAL?
Can we move on?
Madam Chairman, Octavian Advisors was the firm that entered negotiations with Bank of Uganda for the acquisition of the assets. Octavian Advisors incorporated a special purpose vehicle called
How
Nile
did
River.
it enter into an agreement?
Madam Chairman, that was following a formal request to Bank of Uganda.
By who?
Made by Octavian Advisors.
But Mr. You know, do you have a copy of the Auditor General's report?
No, sir, I do not.
It's unfortunate, but I could read for you a paragraph to help you. It says, it's on page 10. There are two paragraphs, the last two paragraphs. One says, according to a letter referenced EDS 1226A, MS J.N. Kirkland and Associates was contracted by Bank of Uganda on the 17th of January 2007 to implement an exit strategy for closed banks in liquidation. The assignment commenced on the 29th 2007 of January, and we expected to accomplish within 16 weeks ending May 2007. According to a letter EDS B65 dated 24th May 2007, J.N. Kirkland and Associates evaluated the remaining assets of the closed banks and identified a suitable firm, MS Octavian Advisors LP, which expressed interest to purchase the assets of $10 million from Bank of Uganda. Now, by this, it shows that you pursued the performance parameters laid out in your contract with the Bank of Uganda, and thereafter, as the last phase, you identified Octavia.
Can you use the microphone?
Now, the issue here I'm interrogating that led to me wanting to know, you submitted letters. First, you exhibited your dissatisfaction that you did not commence on the dates that were set. You started later on. I requested to know when you actually started, and this was informed. This arose from the submission of the letters you gave us. One of the letters indicates that you submitted a report including assets, taking assets and accounts of the banks under liquidation on the 30th of March. But we see a letter written by the then EDS on the 12th of March before you submitted your report regarding Octavia. Octavian should have come at the tail end after you, because it's you who identified Octavian after you should have submitted those reports. So had you predetermined Octavian before you had even known the value of what you wanted to put on sale? That's why the chair prompted you to give you a moment to compute, to know when you started, so that we can determine now whether Octavian came in at the right moment. I thought that was the issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. When we signed the agreement for this assignment, it said we were going to commence on 22nd. But Bank of Uganda needed some time to get ready. But even as Bank of Uganda was getting ready, even us on our side, we were having numerous meetings with the Bank of Uganda Supervision Department to enable the assignment to move forward. Part of those, every time we had these discussions, by the way, were always held at Bank of Uganda.
So when did you commence?
According to this, we commenced on 29th.
Yes, even your letter says you commenced on 29th.
Which letter are you referring to, Madam?
A Bank of Uganda letter says that you commenced on 29th.
According to this, yes, we formally commenced on 29th.
Madam Chair, this meeting
you
is
see,
committed.
you see, when you look at the letter dated is 25th September 2007. The assignment commenced on January 29th, 2007.
Yes.
And was expected to be accomplished within 16 weeks.
Yes, Madam.
With the end of May 2007.
Yes, Madam.
And then when you go to the tail end of this letter, he said J.K. Kirkland and Associates had two plans, yes. Plan A and B, for executing the assignment of identifying and quoting the potential buyers. Plan A involved direct sale of private placement to a single buyer. And Plan B involves a sale to a multiple buyer through public tender process.
Yes, Madam.
It is in the same letter which says J.K. Kirkland and Associates opted to pursue Plan A.
Yes, Madam.
But at the beginning, when you're making your presentation, you said
yes,
it is Bank of Uganda that opted for Plan A. You don't know why.
Madam, I want to clarify something on record. J.N. Kirkland and Associates were advisors to Bank of Uganda. We did not have decision-making authority.
So you never made a decision to go for Plan A?
No. In order to do Plan A, we had to get written instruction from Bank of Uganda. Everything we were acting as advisors to Bank of Uganda.
So you got a letter
yes.
advising you to go for Plan A?
That told us to go for Plan A, exclusivity, dealing with Octavian advisors.
So don't you see the inconsistency between what is in the letter with what you say?
No, Madam. That letter that you are quoting is not my letter.
What I'm saying,
yes.
The Bank of Uganda said that you opted to go for Plan A.
Madam
Whereas
Chairman.
we had two options.
Yes.
And when you look at your terms of reference,
yes, Madam.
They say study, review and evaluate the non-cash assets of the closed banks and their related documentation and establish their estimated realizable values. That was one. And then you needed to do the due diligence procedures, prepare a confidential information. There are many of them. But you zeroed on only one. And yet you're supposed to do a due diligence, you're supposed to do evaluation, get a realizable values. How could you pick on only one institution?
Madam Chair, we did all these other things. The due diligence was done, the confidential information memorandums were prepared, and all of that was done. The letter I am referring to that authorized Plan A is actually one that says, do Plan A up to this point. If it doesn't work, go to Plan B. This is the letter signed by...
Who asked for Plan A?
Who asked for?
Who asked for Plan A? Was it you or Bank of Uganda is the one who advised you to go for Plan A?
Madam Chairman, Octavian advisors made a request that they would want to buy the whole portfolio. We took that request to Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda
Madam Chair, that's where I actually have a problem.
Bank of Uganda considered the request and approved.
Can I have that letter which you wrote asking to buy the whole portfolio?
Madam Chairman, I'm referring you to a letter dated 12th March.
But before that letter, Mr. That is actually where the issue is.
Yes, sir.
You commence your argument on a letter on the 29th of January.
Yes.
And the first parameter is that it gives you 6 weeks.
Yes.
To come with a report of the portfolio database and an inventory.
Yes.
6 weeks from 29th of January is actually 14th of March.
Yes.
Now, before your inventory even comes in, which is submitted on the 30th of March, Octavian, who has no information regarding the values which you ought to have done in your first report, has already submitted a request. And there's communication from Executive Director of Supervision that the matter of exclusively dealing with Octavian advisors in the transactions of bulk selling and residue assets of the closed banks under liquidation has been considered and accepted by Bank of Uganda. Basing on what? Because your initial engagement was to bring out values and the status of these banks under liquidation to be able to attract the most attractive buyer to recover the highest amount possible for these banks under liquidation. So here we are, but we have not received a report from you that came on the 30th. But someone has already actually submitted a request which has actually even been agreed on by Bank of Uganda before your report comes in. And is not even in Uganda.
And when you look at some of...
How did you know that
and when you look at the terms of reference, one of them is to prepare tender documents. You believe that?
Yes.
Then the other one is to analyze the bids and qualify bidders.
Yes.
Why didn't you do that? And you went on hand picking.
Chair, Chairperson, I can even make it more simpler. Because when you look at the parameters, A, B, C, D, up to G, if Octavia just came in after he had done 1 and B, but before even B was concluded, so the bid is number E, which is after 17 weeks. But here is Octavia coming after about 5.5 weeks. Before all the other information which is necessary for even the bids is out. So that is why you are asking.
Is it Catalan which leaked these things to Octavian abroad? Because you said you wanted, spicing from abroad. These people are not in Uganda. Why did Catalan go abroad to meet or to talk with the Octavia when things were not yet public to everybody?
Madam Chair, I heard him say they have been having some engagements before they came to a decision, and that he was the one just giving.
I hope you're not in the questions as they come in, because I want you to to respond to all those questions. Then we now move to Bank of Uganda.
Yeah, that they were advising Bank of Uganda. Madam Chair, I just wanted to find out from them whether all this engagement, their meetings were minuted, and we can have a look at the minutes. Did you have minutes to your engagements with the bank?
Thank you, Chair. In answer to the last question, all the time we attended meetings with Bank of Uganda in the supervision department, there was an attendance book we had to sign, the people who came from our team and the people from Bank of Uganda who were present at those meetings. The people at Bank of Uganda were the record keepers of those discussions. So I don't have the minutes, but we recorded our
minutes being taken.
Our appearances. To my recollection, they were usually nearly all of these briefings had people from supervision, had people from legal, and sometimes they had people from direct administrative services. But each time we appeared, we signed our attendance in an attendance sheet or book.
He's saying as they attended, the minutes were being done by bank officials.
Bank officials were the hosts of the meetings, and they were for us. We recorded our presence, and then we had the discussions and the decisions made at those discussions. Then we left the Bank of Uganda office.
No, you are not being clear. As you are discussing, was somebody taking minutes?
I said the Bank of Uganda officials were. Yes. And they recorded our presence every time we appeared.
Now, Madam Chair, just to go back to Bank of Uganda, do we have those minutes of the engagement?
Madam Chair, I think since Mrs. Bajanda was attending most of these meetings, she can perhaps help us understand whether or not there were minutes and where they are.
Madam Bajanda. Thank you, Chair. I wish to beg your pardon. It is 2007 when the things happened. Surely. I beg your indulgence. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I had asked,
the question is, are the minutes there or not?
In fact, Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I think Kirkland has already, Mr. Kakemba has confirmed that there were minutes being taken. Now, I think the question to Bajenda is, where are the minutes? Unless saying Mr. Kakemba is lying.
No. Chair, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Honorable.
The minutes being taken.
As I said, my memory can't serve me right on that. 2007, but I request...
we are saying, where are the minutes?
Mr. Chair...
It's not about what you say, where are the minutes?
Madam Chair...
Mr. Katiba, the microphone is here, pick it and speak.
Madam Chair, 2007, we in 2018, Mr. Katimbo, I don't like and I don't love seeing that kind of action in this committee. Have respect for the committee. I don't want to repeat the word I told you one time, but respect your age. And for us here, it's about patience. If you feel somebody has hurt you, just be patient and give a point. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what is going to be written. Madam Bajenda said it's a long time, she can't know that the minutes are there.
Madam Chair, these are submissions which should not be acceptable to this committee. We are talking about the institution of the Central Bank of Uganda. We are not even at our own homes. Do you even forget the day when you are married, or when the birthdays and whatever? We keep records, Madam Chair. And we have staff employed to keep records of even small farms, my small business. And for the EDS, who has been there for 35 years, said she can't remember whether the records were, the minutes were taken. She should submit
that indeed all those meetings had minutes, and then where the minutes are, she must know who was in charge of minuting all her meetings, her engagement with external clients.
Honorable Anya, this has been a persistent problem on minutes. And the minutes, we'll make a decision in our report. And maybe because you were part of the meeting as Kirkland, you ought to have a copy of what you're always discussing. Can we have a copy from your side?
Madam Chairman, we were not the hosts of the meeting. We would finish the meeting and leave the office. The minutes had not even been typed. We don't have copies of them. But we would sign in our attendance to confirm that the meeting took place.
Mr. Kakembo, you said you used to attend meetings and the minutes were being taken, and you had frequent meetings, if I got you right. Now, when you come back for the following meetings, you don't review the previous meetings minutes.
Agendas before you start meetings?
Just Honorable Anwar. Because that is the order if the meetings are there. When you come the following day, the subsequent meetings, you review. You start by reviewing whether what you agreed is a correct record of what was taken. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Our meetings were not conducted in that fashion. We were not asked to review the minutes of the previous meetings before we continue to the next one.
Who did ask you? Because you say you were not asked.
Most of these meetings were chaired by the Executive Director, Bank Supervision.
My colleagues, your colleagues, you remember Madam Bajenda here saying there were no minutes. Now we have had a confirmation from the Kirkland, the advisor, that there was a record, the minutes were being taken, but they would not review it. So this is completely in variance with what she has been telling us here, that there were no minutes. I think we shall form our...
And she was...
Let's form our opinion when we are making the report. And Mr. Kakembo, the original agreement was that the cost of the portfolio was $10 million US dollars.
But he hasn't answered all the questions.
$10 million US dollars. And I want also to know who made a request to reduce it from 10 to 5.2.
Madam Chair, can I beg your indulgence? Can I beg your indulgence? Madam Chair, you remember in our meeting, we got to know that when Kirkland went to meet Octavian, they went with Sekabera. And you remember when we asked Mr. Sekabera, we know his response. Can we know how Mr. Sekabera became part of Kirkland?
You will answer that.
And what was his role?
You will answer that. Can you first answer all the other questions, then you come to that one?
Madam Chairman, thank you. If you look at a letter, the big letter from Octavian, in answer to your question first, if you look at the big letter from Octavian, it is dated September 28th, 2007. In that letter on page 2, Octavian outlines the reasons that affected the price reduction. It lists them on page 2. Let me tender it for your records. They are listed on page 2 under 4 general heads. One is expected recovery, one is expected costs, one is currency risk, one is portfolio specific risks. The first three, I cannot comment on them. These are matters exclusively for Octavian. The last one, portfolio specific risks, that one I know about because we had done the due diligence on the portfolio. If you look at this paragraph...
Where is the report of the due diligence? Because you're saying you had done the due diligence on the portfolio, give us a report of the due diligence and evaluation report. Because by the time you discount a portfolio to 93, then you must have evaluation report that you based on. You must have the due diligence that you carried out.
Madam Chairperson, as I have already submitted, the due diligence reports, which included the valuation reports, were submitted and received by Bank of Uganda.
What were your values that you estimated in the report of the portfolio?
Madam Chair.
Just a minute.
Rated PG-13. Experience it in IMAX December 21st.
Stations are very high-risk environments with highly flammable gases. Now, while fueling at a station, do not smoke, because once that nozzle is decoupled from the pump, it releases gases that can actually catch a whiff of that fire and set the whole station on fire, and you losing your life. So do not smoke while at a fuel station. Your life is precious. Twedeco, every life matters.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda.
Arthur, go home. Do not ever come back to Atlantis. There was a time when I wanted to meet my little brother more than anything. If only I'd known what a maniac he would turn out to be. You are not going to win this. A war is coming to the surface whether you like it or not. You know I can't let that happen.
Aquaman, rated PG-13. Experience it in IMAX December 21st.
Parliament continues probe into Bank of Uganda's sale of banks. Consultants squeezed over irregularities in the disposal of closed banks' assets. Also coming up, National Water and Sewerage Corporation to work with Kampala Capital City Authority to construct thousands of clean water access points around the city. And the Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of Congo has questioned the authenticity of the official results for December's presidential election.
Show, hottest entertainment news, and home to great hits. Catch up with your favorite celebrity, exclusive interviews, behind the scenes and performances. It's fresh, funky and fan. It's NTV The Beat. Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. with Daggin Eyes, Tracy, DJ Brand, Dash, Baby Love and Sheila. When you think show business, think The Beat.
Good to have you on the program. I am Joel Kamadi. In the next half hour, we will bring you up to speed on all you need to know about both local and international sport. Coming up on Friday's edition of Sport Today, we have a double overtime thriller to unpack in the NBA, plus a preview of Saturday's English Premier League lunchtime kickoff, pitting West Ham against the Arsenal. So do stay with us if you can. So let's get started. CS Sfaxien are bedding into Uganda ahead of Saturday's CAF Confederation Cup playoff round, first leg tie against Vipers. Now the match will take place at St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende. Sfaxien's Dutch manager Ruud Krol is quietly optimistic about his side's chances. This after the team jetted in on Thursday.
Vipers is of course a good team. That is, of course, that it will be a difficult match after this long trip from Tunis to Uganda. Of course, that is always have an influence on the physical part of the team, and that we hope that we have full recuperation after this 2 days traveling, and that we can make a good result here in the first game here in Uganda. The Vipers playing, of course, that is not so difficult. But of course, the history of the club I don't know that so well. But of course, we have the time to look about that here, and we can read the newspapers a little bit here. So then we know that the Vipers is a big club, and that we have a tough opponent. Look how it is Saturday, and then we hope we can get a good result. Even of course artificial terrain, the field that is for us also a little bit difficult because we're playing on grass fields, and of course that is we have to look Saturday. Two good teams, and we hope we have a good positive result for the way back.
Now, Vipers have had mixed results on the continent this season, losing 3 matches and winning 1. Javier Martinez Espinoza, the Mexican coach who oversaw those disappointing results, has since been cut loose. A new backroom staff with the returning Edward Golola and Kenyan Michael Ouma is trying to inject a sense of urgency in the Venoms' play. Now, the duo insists that Vipers will be competitive come Saturday.